Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Savvy Report. I'm Ernie Martin, founder and CEO of Receivable Savvy, where we provide research and best practice to help master the order-to-cash process. Today, we're speaking with Shilpam Ahuja, Assistant Vice President for Invoice-to-Cash Practice at Genpact. Many of you may be familiar with Genpact as a global leader in business process outsourcing, but Genpact is much more than that, providing services in lending, insurance, wealth management, as well as risk and compliance, as well as finance and accounting. And what we'll cover today is a portion of the finance and accounting practice as it relates to order to cash and invoice to cash from Shilpam's perspective. So let's get started. Hello, Shilpam, and thank you for joining us on the Savvy Report.
Hi, Ernie. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for carving out time out of your busy schedule. And I've given a somewhat brief overview of Genpact, but please tell us a little more about the company and your role within the organization.
Sure. So Genpact is a global professional services company that provides, that enables to reimagine, reinvent, and create meaningful transformation for its global clients and their end customers. And that's our passion. And when I talk about passion, I remember a quote by John Maxwell that says that great leaders' courage to fulfill their vision comes from passion, not position. And that defines our CEO, Tiger, pretty well. And talking about the transformation, Genpact provides transformation in terms of intelligent operations by designing transformation services, running operations through digital and analytics, and also provides transformation services through digitally led operations by leveraging domain and process expertise. And only as you rightly mentioned about the services, Genpact provides solutions across core business services, procurement and supply chain, risk and compliance, sales and commercial, and finance and accounting. I'm part of the finance and accounting team wherein I am the subject matter expert for invoice to cash practice. I'm responsible for end-to-end design to implementation of digital innovation and transformation for Genpact's global clients who partner with us on their finance transformation journey, whether it's a shared service center design or implementation support, consulting, business and transformation initiatives. So basically, our role is to operationalize best practices for our current and potential clients by leveraging domain expertise.
Okay, excellent. And that's a pretty comprehensive list and overview because Genpact has expertise in a number of different areas. But let's focus a little on order to cash, invoice to cash. So in general, from your perspective, what are those top 2 to 3 challenges finance leaders face in order to cash? And I know this is a pretty broad question, but from your perspective, what issues stand out for you and for Genpact?
Mm-hmm. So see, based on my client conversations that I see, the critical challenges, which are there is, first of all, that comes to my mind is lack of cash flow, right? That's the key one because, if you don't have sufficient available capital, you cannot pay the bills, let alone invest in efforts to make your business grow. Right. So, when we talk to our clients, we see that, they lack systems to track the cash effectively or forecast the cash accurately. And cash management is very important to fulfill the working capital requirements, to handle the unorganized costs, to actually initiate any kind of investments or to manage the capex spending, right? So I think this is one of the key challenges that I have seen. The second one that comes to my mind is, lack of accessibility to the real-time data or information. Right. Now, when we take any kind of finance decisions, right, and we take it based on last month's or last quarter's data, I think that can lead to multiple mistakes because it's just like driving 60 miles per hour by utilizing or just, looking at your rear view mirror. right?
Yep.
And that can lead to problems. And also, when you see the finance companies or the Office of Finance, the data exists, but they exist in silos. So every business unit has a legacy system.
Right.
There is disparate data that exists. So I think to unify the data in order to do analysis, can actually, take off these problems of pulling the data from disconnected databases or spreadsheets. If you have one single system of truth, it will help you to increase the speed of reporting and also get rid of any challenges or process efficiencies that are inherent in manual processes.
Right.
And I think the third challenge that I'm really seeing these days, because now I'm very close to, working with the digital innovation and technology, is like automation with technology.
Yeah.
So what it means is that, with tech implementation, in order to drive automation is the key challenge. Automation, when you talk to finance leaders, some of the organizations, they feel that it's just related with productivity and that's the key driver.
Right.
But I think it's much beyond than productivity. And I think there is a lot of value which is there, from digitization that comes, and that could be like in AR. You can think about cost savings through revenue leakage. Then there is working capital benefits. There is interest savings, and I think the underlying factor for this gap or this thinking is the adoption of the tool that can be hindered by the change averse staff. And I think that's the reason they feel that productivity is the key driver. But I think there is much beyond than that.
Right.
So overall, I feel cost pressures, profitability margins, cash flow, it stresses the need to reinvent operations and reimagine customer experience.
Right. And so you bring up some excellent points, and we touched on some of those things when we were at Radiance earlier this year. So for full disclosure, Shilpam and I were on a panel discussion and around the topic of what can the CFO do around handling and leveraging data. And so you mentioned data, you mentioned technology. And so from your perspective, how have finance leaders done in terms of wrapping their arms around managing data, collecting the right data, leveraging technology to streamline processes?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Ernie. So I think, embracing digital transformation and the ability to scale quickly is something that finance leaders are looking forward to as they see the future. Right. Because future is all about evolving and, innovating business models, whether it's like a cloud-based technology or whether it is, artificial intelligence. And I think that that there are few finance leaders who basically are hesitant in making a shift or switch from the legacy systems, or the systems that they are used to working on, because out of the knowledge or love towards those systems. And also there is a potential steep learning curve to train the end users, right? And that's why they want to stick to the legacy systems, and there is a considerable hesitation in switching from them.
Right.
But I think that by providing rapid response to the key business needs, it can help the finance leaders to catapult from the outmoded data processing to strategic partnering. And I think data is very important fuel, as you rightly mentioned, right, for the business growth. And there's a lot of inclination that we see towards data and analytics in order to gain insights and to have, and to make key business decisions. So these days, when I'm talking to a lot of C-suite people for our clientele, I see that, there is a lot of inclination towards improving the big data and analytics in order to transform forecasting, understand the value drivers, and for risk management as well.
Right, exactly. And so specifically, those technologies, what kinds of technologies are you seeing that are currently being embraced by finance leaders in order to cash?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great point. So basically, Ernie, rather than looking at the technology, I would state that in the Office of Finance, they seek for solutions that can address their process challenges, which they see across the AR landscape, right? And from technology standpoint, I see there is a norm towards gaining a competitive advantage in the market, and in order to do that, right, there is an inclination to actually have technology or platforms which has embedded machine learning or AI capabilities and RPA capabilities, rather than procuring additional tools and platforms, right? And I see that there is a lot of trend to partner with experts who can deliver data orchestration, automated insights, predictive analytics, or even the self-learning capabilities and tools which are there in the market. So I think these helps to drive better decision making, and I feel that only an integrated tool can drive these changes.
Right.
So if you go ahead and try and partner, the right partner needs to support the business strategy, and also the partner should be able to integrate the internal systems with the modern technology very smoothly, and there should not be any impact in maintaining the integrity of the data of the organization.
Right, exactly. And so you mentioned competitive advantage, and so tying that together with the kinds of return on investment that organizations and financial leaders look for, what types of return are organizations looking for to make sure that they are being more competitive?
Mm-hmm. So I think that's great. So I think from the return standpoint, right, I feel that there's a lot that we can get from the technology, because it actually helps to increase the business efficiency. It helps to reduce the cost.
Right.
And also it enables to have a protection of the data to a great extent. And I think automation is the future, and that's the only way, if you do automation, to stay competitive. There is no other way that you can exist in the market these days. Automation is the future, and to be competitive, it's very important to make that change in the organization. I think with right technology, the finance leaders not only just automate the processes or fast track the order to cash function, but it also enables them to imbibe the best practices and also to use ready to use templates, right? It enables as well to add value with efficiency. So what I mean with it, like we see a lot of fast growing organizations, right? It actually helps them to optimize their team structure and focus on value added tasks in order to elevate their position in the market. I'll give you an example from the AR practice. Like, for instance, if there is a collection analyst, right, he or she spends a lot of time, if it's a manual task, to figure out whom do they have to contact when they start their day, or kind of a day in a life of a collector. And if there's no technology that exists and the process is completely manual, then you have to go to the ERP, you have to download the spreadsheet, apply the filters, and you get to a point where you know that, okay, as per the aging analysis, this is the customer I need to call today. But if you have a technology in place with analytics and all the machine learning capabilities, then it actually throws a suggested action, and a collector knows, okay, based on the past behavior of the customer, this is the customer I need to call today. So it saves a lot of time, makes the process efficient, and that's where I come from, that it enables to add value through efficiency, right? So it not only helps you to provide a great customer experience, but I think it plays a great role in actually retaining the customers, which is key to keep growing.
Absolutely. And those are key and desired outcomes, right? And so, which, sort of begs the question, from your perspective, a lot of organizations, a lot of people shy away from change because, change is very challenging and sometimes it's very painful. And so what would you suggest? Well, first of all, before we get to that question, do you see organizations and finance leaders that struggle with embracing technology, embracing change. And so what would you do to recommend sort of for finance leaders to become more comfortable with change in and of itself, and then the technologies that bring about change? What would you recommend in saying that?
Mhm. So see, I think maybe you're going towards that. What are the key catalysts, right, in these areas, which is actually driving all these initiatives? So I think from the key drivers perspective, if I just tell you that when I speak with a lot of clients, I see to look at the whole process, the way of looking at it is completely changing from how can we do it to question is like, so, or maybe from can we do it, the question is like, how can we do it and when can we get started to make that change? So the perspective has now changed, right? And that's where, we are seeing this norm a lot. So based on that, we see that maintaining high standards of data hygiene has been the key driver from the AR goal standpoint. The whole finance process is changing the finance process is going around first digitizing and then automating and finally powering it up with artificial intelligence. Right. And I think that's the recipe for the intelligent finance operations. So that's the operation which is led by, process, technology, data, and driven by people. Right. And see, there is when we started with, I spoke about a lot of prediction towards cash flow. Now the ability to predict cash flow and also for the business to be able to collect that cash, right. It hinges around the efficacy of the AR activities, of other AR activities too, like it's invoicing or payment application or collections management. So I think end-to-end AR optimization is very important, and that's where the play of the right technology comes into picture. And that's where the main catalyst that is driving this change is AR digitization, because it's a strategic lever to help to enhance business efficiency, accelerate cash flow, and provide exceptional customer experience. Right.
Exactly. And so, as finance leaders, as CFOs wrap their arms around this, they don't have to do it alone, right? So inherently, finance leaders are not technologists, per se. And so they've got the chief information officer, chief technology officer, others within the organization. So are you finding it beneficial for finance leaders to partner internally with their other technology staff members or those who have expertise, subject matter experts within the organization? Is that proving to be a road forward and a path forward for a lot of finance leaders?
Yes, of course. I think internal collaboration and internal communication is one of the key things that is required to be successful, right? Yep. And if you ask me, the role of technology as well in this. So if we are not doing a meaningful internal communication, then it leads to a lot of to and fro, because without technology, you don't have the real-time access to the data. And because of that, to get the information real-time, you have to do a lot of internal collaboration. Yeah. And in order to do that, most of your critical tasks get delayed, right? So because of that, like could be, upgradation of credit limits, could be blocked order release. So I think internal collaboration is key, right? And that's very important. That's, I think, one of the recommendations that I would definitely, like to propose that. But yeah, from the role of technology standpoint, I think technology really helps to actually go very close to straight through processing. It makes the organization more closer to straight through processing, enhances the internal visibility, and it also helps to repurpose the AR personnel to other value-added initiatives. So I think that's actually the key role, and internal communication definitely plays a great role in that.
Yeah. Excellent. And so, Shilpam, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the Savvy Report. You provided some great insight and recommendations for our audience that they can start investing today. And you can find more information about Genpact and how they help organizations in finance and accounting at genpact.com/finance-accounting and then /invoice to cash. We'll put that in the description as well, so you can follow that. And so thank you for joining me and my guest Shilpam Ahuja on this episode of the Savvy Report. I'm Ernie Martin, and we'll see you next time.